Good evening to all of our Detroit Black and White viewers. Welcome to our midweek edition of Detroit Black and White. Today we have Alan Langle,
Hello.
Deadline Detroit, Washington Post.
Greetings.
Greetings. We have Mr. Eric Brown, our
Good
good
evening.
guru. Good evening. We have Jim Nardoni, the former chief of police, Trenton Police Department. Good evening.
Happy Wednesday evening.
Happy
Beautiful weather.
Wednesday. Yes, beautiful weather. Listen, if you are watching Detroit in black and white, we want you to hit that like button. We want you to subscribe. You can catch us on all social media platforms, including Facebook. We want you to join us in the comments this evening. Shout out to Janet and Queen B. Hey. And everybody else is Jill. Hey, Jill. Thank you so much for joining us. So, this evening, Adolf will not be joining us this evening, but he will be here on Friday. So what we're going to do is we decided that we're going to talk about something that, first of all, this is in Deadline Detroit, Alan Langle's paper. Deadline Detroit is an online paper, and it's about the poll. And the caption says, Duggan gains ground among Detroit voters in governor's race. Benson and James slip. What is your opinion about this poll? You want to start? Alan, since it's in your.
Yeah, look, we talk about polls. I mean, you can always discount them or whatever. And, sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they're not. I'll say one thing, just an example before we start. Ed Sarpolis, who conducted the poll, he did a poll, I remember, on the Andy Levin, Haley Stevens race in the primary. And he said that Haley Stevens was ahead by 20 points. And I published the poll, and the Levin people called me up and said, this poll is bullshit, and he's a shitty pollster. And Haley Stevens won by 20 points. So, I as a candidate, whether it's true or not, whether I can dismiss and say, oh, it's bullshit, I would take heed to it at least. I think what it's saying, I mean, it's so early. I mean, the general election is until like November or whatever, the 3rd of 2026. We're talking about a long way off. A lot of things can happen in between them. But, Duggan is trying to, basically the poll says for Duggan, who's an independent, who's really a Democrat, and Jocelyn Benson, the poll says they have to do well in Detroit or they can't win. As far as John James' support in the poll is not that great in Detroit, but he's a Republican. He doesn't have to have that. I mean, Donald Trump only got 9% of the vote in Detroit, and he won Michigan by quite a bit. So I think the poll basically is saying that Duggan is slowly creeping up. Benson didn't lose a lot. She lost a few points. I think went from 35% to or 36% to 32%. Duggan went from 41% to 48%. And John James went from 10% to 3%. And I think part of that is where people are just trying to figure out what's going on. But, for what it's worth, I mean, like I say, it's early. You can be dismissive and say it's all bullshit. Maybe. But I think if I'm a candidate, I'm looking and going, all right, what's my next step? What's my strategy here? So,
Eric, you want to weigh in?
I mean, I'm not at all surprised. I said from the start that Duggan was going to be a very formidable candidate as an independent. And one thing that people need to pay attention to, if he were to win Michigan, that's going to set the stage for a very interesting 2028 presidential election, because he won in a purple state, and people will see an independent as someone as formidable, and people are just tired of both the Democratic and Republican Party.
Okay. What about you, Jim?
I'm glad Par Orgs is weighing
Right.
in here. He's our old friend, but I want to start here, and Queen Bee, I think, is right on target. But what I want to start here is the poll was done by Deadline Detroit, and last week Alan
Well,
decided
it wasn't done by. It was written.
By
Our poll list.
Target Insight.
We wrote about. We wrote about.
I'm sorry. I was going down a path here to say last week we beat up on Alan. I want if I said anything that offended Alan, I want to apologize because what I said was I think it was Par Orgs that was making a comment about our show, and I made a comment that we weren't Deadline Detroit. I didn't mean that in a derogatory manner at all. We're forever linked to Deadline Detroit, and for me, I'm grateful for Deadline Detroit because a lot of our information gets out there that wouldn't get out there without Deadline Detroit. I appreciate it.
Whatever. We're not Deadline Detroit. That's the truth. If Alan's feelings was hurt, then so what, Alan?
Well, I didn't mean we shouldn't have.
I'm not insulted. Look, I mean, the reality is, look, the show is totally separate from Deadline Detroit. We do after the show on Saturdays. I put it on Deadline Detroit to get more viewing audience for our show. It's a partnership, I think, but we're separate. But I am with Deadline Detroit. We have another, Deadline Detroit has another podcast or video cast. But no, I mean, I don't take it personally at all.
There was no disrespect intended.
No, I don't take it as.
And it felt like you got beat up on, and I didn't like that. I didn't think that was fair to beat up on a guy that wasn't here.
Alan used to me beating up on him, but you still didn't answer the question. What's your?
I know I haven't answered the question. I'm surprised by the showing of the mayor right now. I think he's doing better than I expected him to do, and I think Queen Bee is right on. It's a horse race right now between Jocelyn on that side. I don't know about Mike Rogers or anybody else, but they're splitting the vote. It's going to be a split between Jocelyn Benson and Mike Duggan, and whichever way they decide to break, I think that person is going to have a great opportunity to win this election.
Well, Alan said something very interesting. He said that Duggan is really a Democrat, and I'm going to challenge you. I think Duggan really is a politician, and I think that so many people that run for office, they change sides because, listen, it would be much more beneficial in this in this climate. It seems to be that people want something that's different than what is the status quo, what has been normal. Okay, people are tired of the same old thing. So for Duggan to go out and say, you know what, listen, I'm going to go ahead and run as an independent, I think that those people who have decided to blow it off, I think that they're not reading the tea leaves. I think most people feel like they have to identify with a party, but a lot of people, it like I always say, it depends on what day of the week, what issues we're talking about. That is how they determine what person they want to hold in office. And we could use the presidency of the United States. People did not want Joe Biden as the president. Listen, they wanted something different. They wanted something that they thought that was not normal. Listen, people could say that Donald Trump is a Republican all day long. I say, no, he's a politician, because at one point in time, he was a Democrat. And he said, if I ever run for president, I'm going to run as a Republican. He said that because he felt like he could win. He knew the things that he needed to say to win. He knew what kind of issues he needed to address. And I think we're seeing the same thing when we see the mayor of the city of Detroit, who has identified as a Democrat, who is now really identifying as an independent, which I say that's what he's probably has always been.
Well, I think, it's not unusual. We saw Bloomberg switch. He was a Republican. He's a Democrat. He's an independent. I mean, these guys jockey around to find the best slot to get the best path. And, Duggan's doing just that. So.
Vanessa, before I forget, don't neglect our viewers out there. I'm happy to see Ira Todd, our Detroit police legend, on there tonight. That was a tremendous show on Saturday.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks to him for that.
Yep. So Day says good evening to Detroit Black and White. Hey, Day. Queen Bee says she definitely thinks that Jocelyn is slipping, and Craig too, for that matter. We have Stephanie Jackson. Good evening, Stephanie Jackson. She says, what does Stephanie say? Well, let me go to Ronald Hinkle. Quinn B said John James is ridiculous. I don't know why she says that. Stephanie Jackson says, good evening, all. We also have, I'm trying to scroll here. Power Org, he says, Lango, is there a gas leak in Ed Sarpolis's home? Ronald Hinkle Sr. says, good evening, enjoy, let's keep up the good work and real news. Felicia Dean said, good evening. We have Aronde Stokes. We also have Derek Henry, who said, good evening, family. Ira Todd, of course, said, good evening. We also have Ruby L. Lately Riley, who said, good evening. You know, what I've noticed is that every week, and it doesn't matter what day of the week, we always have newer viewers coming in watching the show. So Detroit Black and White is, getting traction, and people are really enjoying the show, and they really enjoying the conversation. I was out earlier today, and one of my friends says, listen, I really enjoyed Detroit Black and White. When I don't get a chance to watch it, I'm disappointed. But she says she gets a lot of information from this show. And I said, yeah, because you have some really, really, really smart people on the show.
You're not talking about us, though. You're talking about our guests, right? And our other viewers.
So we're
just so you know, Aronde and Day is one and the same.
Oh, okay. Okay, Aronde and Day. Hello.
Trying to trick us. That's Day. He's always trying to pull a fast one on us.
Right. Early Story says, if he wins, we'll need a inter-audit by national governments. His reviews are low in Detroit, and no one wins running as an independent. Okay.
I don't think I'll say
people will be surprised. I mean, I'm not sure why people keep saying that. People will be surprised. At the end of the day, the numbers show that people do not care right now about the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. The Democratic parties are much lower, and independents have won. I'm not, people have to get off this D or R stuff and look at people based on what they're bringing to the table.
Go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say, I think Duggins, it still remains pretty popular in the city. I mean, and in any polls, for again what it's worth, he polls better than any of the mayoral candidates right now. He's had 3 terms, and I think he could easily have a 4th term if he wanted one. Whether he wins the governorship is another question, but
he would win if he ran for a 4th term. Win, and people fail to realize that state of the city was pretty much his gubernatorial campaign pitch.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you guys watch. We also have a Mike Evans who said, good evening. Oh, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, good evening. But we also have people that are watching on Facebook. So I want to give a shout out to Facebook.
And X and LinkedIn.
Oh, yes. And I want to give a shout out to all of those people that are watching Detroit Black and White.
And the Facebooks, the Deadline Detroit Facebook page and the Detroit in Black and White Facebook page, right?
Right.
Okay. Edward A. said, when is Detroit in Black and White going to host a mayor forum? Eric, what date is that we're doing that with 100 Black Men? What day is that?
We're still waiting on confirmation. July 12th or either July 19th.
So sometime in July, we're going to have is it a forum or is it a debate?
It's going to be a forum.
Okay. It's a
candidate forum. It's the mayor and the city council candidates.
Okay. All right.
There's one tomorrow night, a forum at 5:30 p.m. I put a link on Deadline Detroit. If people are interested in watching it live streamed. You can watch it tomorrow. It's a forum. I can't remember. I think it's got maybe 7 candidates or 6. I can't recall.
It's 6 of them, 6 or 5.
6.
Right.
Okay.
It's at the Boys and Girls Club, and registration is already closed. Only way you can see it with live stream.
Right. Well, we were just talking about polls. Let's talk about the poll for the mayor's race. I saw something on Vanessa. Mike Duggan is grifting real Elmer for Thanks, Power Orgs. There is a poll that came out about the mayoral's race as well, and they have, I think we talked about this already, but they have Sheffield is the top person, and then they have Kinloch. Pastor Kinloch is, a close second, and then you have, the rest. And
Chief Craig.
That's also a Target Insight.
Craig, but you know what? I think Chief Craig is, I wouldn't rule him out. I think, from what I'm hearing, the business community is not enthusiastic about Sheffield. They've given her some money, but I think they're looking at Chief Craig as a possibility, and whether that makes a difference, I don't know. It'll mean money. It'll mean more commercials or whatever. But we've got, we don't realize it, but after this month's almost shot, then we have June and July, and
exactly.
Then, I don't know what these guys are waiting for. Mary Sheffield has a shitload of money. I don't know why.
The absentee ballots go out in about 3 or 4 weeks, which is interesting because what we didn't talk about is this. Let me say this. Edward A. says, he asked us, do we know if there is a debate scheduling time soon? I'm done with the forms. People really are done with the forms. They want, because they're canned questions, they're screen questions, they're questions that's not really coming from the constituency. I think that there should be a debate. Adolph thinks there should be a debate. Eric thinks there should be a debate. Alan thinks there should be a debate. Jim thinks there should be a debate. Everybody on Detroit in Black and White thinks that there should be a debate. And I don't understand why. I think it's basically really disrespectful, as far as I'm concerned, to the constituents. You disrespecting, if that's what they want, that's what you should give them. We don't want these canned answers. We don't want
the Mackinac thing. Is that again a forum or a debate?
Oh, well, let's talk about that. So,
well, that's a forum, and that's a joke as well.
Exactly. So the Mackinac Island, first of all, I think Eric touched on this the other day as well as I, is that first of all, you have the powers that be on Mackinac Island making policy about what's going to happen in the city of Detroit. They're not the ones that's voting. Detroiters are voting. But when we talk about this forum on Mackinac Island, do you know out of the 10 people that are running for mayor, that not all of them were invited? They have some kind of, they have a way of deciding who is going to be able to appear. I think polling is one. It was three.
So they set their own criteria, Vanessa?
3 criteria, yes. Polling is one. Voting record is the other. And I forgot what the third one is.
Maybe funding. It may be maybe funding.
But maybe, it's the same.
But it's
the same as they do the presidential debate. I mean, it's based on where people stand in the polling at their present time. So it's different than how they do the national presidential for both parties.
Well, that's some BS. Okay, I'm sorry, that is some BS. So, and again,
what is Power Organ talking about?
What does he say? Mary Sheffield is saving the money to purchase C17HC for her dad. Lord Jesus, have mercy. Forums don't give me answers to my issues as a Detroiter. Exactly. So they're gonna have a forum at Mackinac Island. None of us will be invited, right? Unless you got the shoe in. And I think they have to pay so much money to even go and speak. I might be wrong about that, but that's some bull. I just think that as a candidate, I know that Barlow is not going to Mackinac Island. I know Todd Perkins is not scheduled to go to Mackinac Island. I know Jim, what's his name? It starts with the last H, his last name. What's his name?
Yeah, he's not going.
John Hussein and the young ladies, none of them are going because they don't meet the criteria. And if you ask me, the criteria is very subjective. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Go ahead, Alan. I'm just going to ask you.
Mackinac Island's the kind of place, though. I mean, I've never gone. I've been in opportunities to go there and stuff like that. It's if you're a candidate, there's a lot of money up there. There's a lot of powerful people up there. If you want to get money for your campaign, even if you're not in the debate, it's not a bad idea. If you care about doing that. Other people may say, screw that. I don't need the corporate money or whatever, but there's a lot of corporate money up there.
But if you're not deemed one of the people to come up there for the forum because it's not a debate,
Yeah.
how do you think that they're going to get some money, even though there's a lot of money being thrown around? They're up there making all kinds of deals and policies about what's going to happen in the city of Detroit. Period. The end.
There's drinking, there's boozing, there's a lot of boozing going on up there.
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
schmoozing and boozing and all that kind of stuff. And you can get somebody from DTE or wherever else, and say, hey, look, I need some money for my campaign. And they'll say, I'm going to help you out, or I've got some money, or I'm going to help you out. I'll get you some. If you hit it off with somebody, you have a drink, you have some laughs, and they say, I like, and they like your policies or whatever. So
are we doing a commercial break this evening?
That's a good idea. Why don't we?
Commercial.
Let's do it.
Some light in here so I can.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
So, Alan, I'm going to ask you this question. Maybe you, Eric, and Jim know the answer. When it comes to these polls at Ed Sarpolis, who's paying for these polls? Because we know he's not doing it for free. So,
well, he at this moment he says he's paying for them. He's out of his. It's not for Duggan. It's not for. He's not being hired at this moment. I mean, he has done polls. And he has to disclose if he's doing it for somebody. But he said, today I talked to him and he said, I'm paying for these out of my own pocket right now. So.
That's interesting. That's very.
But wasn't it in conjunction with the Detroit News? This poll, Alan?
No. This was just his poll.
He did this one independent.
Yeah. Look, he's gotten a lot of money over time, and there's going to be at some point people are going to hire him for polls, and particularly in the governor's race. I don't know, the mayoral race just seems less sophisticated in terms of, spending money, but I don't know.
Yeah. Have any of you gone to Mackinac Island at all for the policy conferences at all? I know Adolph has gone in the past. He's gone quite a few times. Have any of you guys
I haven't. I've had opportunities. People invited me to go up there, but
why didn't you go?
I just didn't have any interest. It kind of it's almost like, not quite in the same vein, but like the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington. I never wanted to go because I didn't like people were taking as guests people they were covering. Like if you were the Wall Street Journal, you might invite the CEO from General Electric or Warner Brothers or whatever. It just seems kind of it's just bullshit. But it's look, if you're trying to get some accounts, you're trying to schmooze, you're trying to get somewhere in life, it's a good place to be. But it's too ambitious for me. There's too much ambition, unbridled ambition there.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think that our org says Mackinac policy people are like the British. They are the disturbers of peace. He's funny. I think Stephen Henderson is going to.
He's there. Him and Nolan always have like a bourbon little gathering, bourbon tasting or whatever it is, and they look, they're consider themselves like kingmakers, they like to,
and what Queen Bee said exactly.
Yeah, anoint people.
He's moderating the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I'm gathering from the four of us is that they're going to Mackinac Island, but really, as a voter, you need to pay attention to what the candidates are doing here. Because you guys are we ultimately are going to make the decision as to who becomes the mayor of the city of Detroit, as well as who's going to become the governor of the state of Michigan. So it is our job to vote and not our job to allow a poll to sway our decision. It's not our job to allow the media to sway our decision. it is our responsibility to make informed decisions about who we want to be our next leader. And after that next leader is supported, whether it's somebody you like or not, believe it or not, and I'm saying this, is our job to, you know what, wish that leader well. You know, you want them to do well. If you live in the city of Detroit, it may be somebody that you don't like, but you want them to do well because you live in the city of Detroit. You may not like who the governor is or will be, but you want that governor to do well. And I will say the same for the president of the United States. You may not like who it is, but you want them to do well. You know, so
I would say, look, of all the candidates who are running for mayor, there's nobody who I'd be really upset if they that I dislike if they won. I think I have a big question, and I want to actually write a story on this. Is like for Reverend Kinloch, I want to know, and I know we've discussed this a little bit, but to me as a voter, if he's not going to do the job full time, if he's going to be operating the church, if he's preaching on a Sunday, that's one thing. But if he's still running his church while he's running the city, I think it's
the same thing. He's preaching to his flock, regardless of who his flock is. Right?
Yeah, I have a problem with that. The city that's a 24/7 job.
I agree.
So are you saying that you don't think that he can do both?
Well, I don't know if that's his intention.
Well, he said that he plans on continuing to be the pastor of the church. I mean,
I don't know what that means. If that means running and operating the business side and operating everything, I'd have a problem with that as a citizen. But
so I take it that you're not voting for Pastor Kinloch.
Well, if that's his, I haven't made up my mind yet. But if that's,
well, it sounds like it to me. I'm just starting stuff. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if that's his intention to also run the church at the same time and do that full time, I got a problem with that.
But you know what? Let me say this. I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but somebody brought this to my attention today. You remember Nicholas Hood, Pastor Hood of Plymouth? He ran for mayor. Do you guys remember that? And he had signs all over the place. I forgot all about it. And somebody reminded me today. And I think that people feel the same way that you feel, Alan. I've heard people say this. Listen, I love him in the pulpit. I don't think that I want him as my mayor. But then you have other people who say the reverse, So it's very interesting how he moved up so quickly in the poll. And has he participated in any other forums?
Not that I
don't know. Thanks to Miss Sheila.
I don't think so, but I think what he's done, what I've heard he's done, is that he's really gotten his people out there, his congregation. Really
absolutely.
Right. That goes, somebody put a comment about he's running, losing his flock. He's not losing his flock. Not at all. He actually has probably the best campaign to date. His people are out there because they love him. And then people talk about how he don't live in the city. A lot of his parishioners don't live in the city. No, he live in the city. I've been spoke. A lot of them don't live in the city, but they have family that live in the city. And again, you only need 14 or 18% of the people to come out and vote. He has that right now with just his flock.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks to Jill Sheridan for her comment. Miss Sheila made some nice comments about Vanessa, and Miss Sheila made a comment about the mayor's job being a part-time job. I'm not sure that they might do better. They might be better off if they made it a part-time job.
Huh.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Vanessa. Go ahead. I just wanted to.
Overwhelming job.
I agree.
I agree with Eric. I don't think he's going to lose his flock. I don't think that, and he has a very good ground game. I have friends who are working on the campaign. I've said to, even on the show that I'm a member of Triumph Church, although here lately I do not go to the building. I am a member of Bedside Tabernacle. In other words, I watch it. I don't go to the building unless I feel really compelled to. And when I do go, I go to 745 service up on the boulevard. I used to go to Northland campus, but I talked to some of my friends who, we get a mixed bag. Some people say yay and some people say no. So I think really this race is really a toss-up. You really can't say who is going to win. You can say that Mary Sheffield is the front runner, and she very well may be. That does not mean that she's going to take it all the way to the run the ball home. You can't say that. You don't know.
To Alan's point earlier, you made a great comment. People sleep on Craig all they want, and don't be surprised if he's one of the top two, because all the other ones are going to split the votes, and he has a lot of people that like him as well. The polls, he dropped 1 percentage point in the poll. Mary dropped 2 percentage points in the poll. Kinloch went up 20.
Yeah.
Pastor Kinloch's success is, again, people are tired of politicians. I'm surprised Perkins is not doing better, but of the named candidates, people are just, and that's why someone that's not a politician has winning. You go back to 2016. That's how Donald Trump won.
Well, you speaking of Donald Trump, we do have businessmen in the race. We have John Barlow, very smart, bright young man, has a very strong message. I don't know what his, because I'm not working with any campaign, but he's a businessman. The guy that you're about to say, Alan, what's his first name?
Joel
Hashim. Hashim. He was on our show a couple of years ago. You also have Todd Perkins. These are businessmen. Donald Trump was a businessman. So we can't discount these people. We can't say, okay, the poll says, or this is the most popular person. You don't know, because if you're out here talking to people, you're going to get a mixed reaction. Some people say, I don't know, which I say that's a lie. You just don't want to say, and that's cool. But a lot of people are saying, you know what? Again, it depends on what side of town you're on, what group of people you're talking to. You get a mixed bag. And I'm telling you, I've got everybody's name except for the young lady that's running. No one has named her to me. So just very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different strategies. I'm getting texts pushing for Todd Perkins. I'm seeing Mary Sheffield do these like community gatherings where there's food and music. I don't know if they are all doing all of those things or they're doing just some of those things. But I mean, you gotta be clicking on all cylinders. Social media. You got to be out in the community.
Hey, thanks, Angela, for being part of our show tonight. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, that's my cousin. Thank you.
Listen, hi, Angela.
Listen, we have someone who says the voters of Detroit need to look at their community and see what their community is in need of and make the decision who they think is best for them. Queen B says last week she was reminded how much money Craig's leadership cost the city. Council just agreed on the 6-digit settlement to one of the people's assaulted during the George Floyd protest. I think that goes hands in hand with the comment that was made right before I read Queen B's comment. That was by Mike Evans. People got to look in their community and make that decision. Now, I don't know about you, Alan, but I take a drive throughout the city, not just downtown. And when you are on a street like where it's only 2 houses on the block, or you're on Marion between Van Dyke and Maxwell, and most of the houses are blown out, or if you're on the west side, 7 Mile, I'm going to say in the Brightmoor, a little bit further down, the Brightmoor area. Those people don't see what people see that live downtown. And those are the people that are going to make a difference in terms of this election. Those are the people that vote. They want to know what's going to change in my neighborhood. What's going to change in my neighborhood?
One thing people have to be careful of when they compare what happened in Detroit and the George Floyd protest, that 6-figure settlement is small in comparison to cities whose neighborhoods were burned down, businesses were not replaced. That's cost the city a lot of money. So I would pay out a 6-figure $250,000 settlement versus the millions of dollars in damages in Milwaukee, Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, New York. So it's small, big, the big scheme of things. And Detroit was one of the only major cities that did not have major disruption during the George Floyd protest. The only major city in America.
So, do you attribute that to the leadership of the James Craig, or do you attribute that to the people in the city of Detroit?
You attribute it to the police department because they were the ones that did not even have National Guard come in because they stated that they were not going to be a city to let people screw up their own city. So yes, I attribute that to the leader of the police department. Those were his statements.
Both. I think it's
Ira.
both. I think it's both. I'm sorry.
I agree with Eric that it's the police department, but I also think the religious community, the clergy were involved in it. And I think there were some of the demonstrators who were trying to make sure the message went through, and the message gets lost sometimes through the violence. So
I agree. The gentleman that kind of runs Detroit Will Breathe, he and I probably agree on 1 in 1,000 things, but he was involved, and I give him credit. And I have to say this, and I've said this before, there were some things that the chief did that I thought he was a little bit, maybe a little laid back. I'll use that term instead of being specific. That I thought maybe he kept his troops back, and you know what? He was courageous in doing that, and it worked out, and I give him all the credit in the world for that.
Well, let me say this, because something Queen Bee just said, which is true. She says that those suburban kids were not violent. A lot of people that were protesting during the George Floyd protest here in Detroit, they didn't even live in the city of Detroit.
Tristan's his name, right?
That's the case. That's the case. A lot of people don't live in the cities that they're I mean, you have a predominantly black, but when you see the protests, it's predominantly white people. 1 + 1 is not equal 2 in those instances. And then you have to look at the situation. Look at one of the protests. You had 2 different groups that were the Wilbur precinct over there near Palmer Park.
That's
the police precinct over there. That was leadership on the part of the Detroit Police Department because they held off those that wanted to act a fool.
It was gutsy. It was a gutsy move what he did over there. I give him
right. So people have to be. I mean, people can't have it both ways.
They took a lot of flack over there, and they stood tall. I give them credit.
We're talking. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're talking about the mayoral race. Let's talk about something that we talked about before we went on air weeks ago. I indicated to you guys, somebody had told me that there was going to be some challenges. And sure enough, there are some challenges. What's your opinion about these challenges to these people that's running for mayor as well as a city clerk, Alan?
You know, I think there has to be something. I mean, we're seeing it too often where people are getting booted off for the most minor of minor details there. And perhaps the guy who's doing all the bouncing and challenging, maybe people should go to him. He should be hired by the city or whatever, and people should be able to take their, I mean, the idea is for democracy, for us to have choices. And when we're having people booted off over the most ridiculous, you know, minor things, I think we're undermining democracy here, and I think we need a better system for checking people's. You know, you go out there and you collect the signatures legitimately, although we've had problems with that. But there's nothing they can do if people don't watch that process. But on the ballot, on the petitioning, you know, signature things, when it's a minor thing where you didn't check the box to say I'm a U.S. citizen. I mean, it should be like something where the clerk takes it in and looks it over and says, wait a minute, you forgot to check this, or wait a minute, this is the wrong something. I think we're eliminating some really good candidates because of I think some silly stuff.
What about you, Eric? What's your opinion about this? I'll tell you in a minute, Queen.
The inconsistency of the Detroit Elections Committee, the Secretary of State, because you cannot take intent into consideration in 2013 at a mayoral race, but then you're using the VOI, which is the verification of identity. Fred Durhal put Junior. He didn't put Fred Durhal III. You know who is running for the seat. So stuff like that is ridiculous. Another candidate, the question is that was challenged as to whether or not the mayor's term end on December 31st or January 1st. Technically, it's both. But you have to use common sense when you allow the challenges to go through. And some of these challenges, some of these people were thrown off for the most minute reasons. Now, signatures is one thing, but when you use a language where even an imbecile know what the intent is, you can't use that as an excuse to throw someone off the ballot.
Yeah. What about you, Jim?
Well, the gentleman's name is I believe it's Robert Davis, and
I can't wait to have my opinion. Yes, it is.
And I'm not going to stand up here and criticize Mr. Davis. I know that Judge Kinney, who was a former prosecutor, had it up to his ears with Robert Davis. But the issue is, the real question is, regardless of all of these complaints, I don't even call them complaints, whatever they are, challenges, if the people on the ballot were paying attention, we probably wouldn't have any challenges. So I am not going to attack Mr. Davis for doing what he thinks is important. He has every right to do it, whether we like it or not.
Listen, I don't disagree that he does not have the right to do it, but here's my problem. First of all, we all know that to do that, it costs money. And listen, if I'm challenging you, Jim, Alan, Eric, guess what? I'm going to stand on business and say, yeah, I did it. The fact that you are a hired gun is a problem for me. And that is why I have a problem with it. I also agree with Eric when he says, listen, if there's basically substantial compliance, if it's something minute, listen, we should not be going through this silliness. The fact of the matter is now these candidates, you got Santil Jenkins, Fred Durhal, who else, Eric? It was,
Chief Craig again, I believe.
Chief
Craig again, Brittany Clark, Chantel Watkins. Even Janice Winfrey has been challenged.
Janice Winfrey has been challenged. Listen, if you're a purist, I could respect that. But I don't believe that for a minute. Okay, I do not. It is very interesting that I was told, somebody whispered in my ear and said it's coming. Okay. And it's insulting to me that a person can get paid to do that. That makes me question whoever paid them, their integrity. Because if I want to do something, I'm going to tell you I did it. Period.
If I were a candidate, I'd go to Robert Davis and say, here's $500.
Well, they didn't do that. That's the point that I'm making.
Well, I'm just saying, there should be something. My feeling is over at the clerk's office, or there should be some type of class that every candidate goes to for a half hour or whatever and says, here's your petition, check this, check that, or is given a tutorial.
They do that. Guess what? This guy, listen, I know a candidate that was challenged all the way up to right before the election this past November.
Yeah.
Okay, he is relentless. You're busy trying to run a campaign, but you got to hire an attorney to fight this nonsense. That's ridiculous. Something needs to be done. Listen,
but here, one thing.
Fine. Wait, listen, get out of here. Your challenge is not even going to go through. The fact of the matter that they got to go through this process when it's substantial compliance is a problem for me.
And one of the things that just kills me is that in 2013, a city with a 47% adult functional illiteracy rate, all of a sudden, the election commission and everyone else didn't have a problem when you had two Michael Duggans on the ballot and they given votes to the one that they want to give votes to, and they used the word intent back in 2013. How can you tell me what the intent was of someone that wrote in a name, spelled it wrong, but you gave the vote to the person you wanted to win? Okay. So I just don't like the hypocrisy. And I'm looking at some of these comments. People have to be consistent, because in 2013, in a city, again, 47% functional illiteracy rate, everybody found out how to spell Duggan with 2 G's and how to spell Michael right. because people often spell Michael Michael or EAL. Duggan, 2 G's versus 1. So I'm not going to stand for the hypocrisy from 2013. Now everybody want to be all righteous and say, well, pay attention. You know what's coming. No, it don't work that way.
Absolutely.
You can't have it both ways.
You know what? Queen Bee said they should be paying Robert Davis to go over their applications and signatures. He'll get paid not to go over. If he was in the business of doing that, they will pay him not to go over Vanessa's signatures and applications. Trust me, this is how it goes. And unfortunately, we live in a time where now people are knocked off of the ballot. People, basically, we're allowing people like Mr. Davis determine who goes on the ballot and who we select and who we vote for. If y'all don't have a problem with it, okay, but it's not okay with me.
Because let's use for example, the mayoral role as mayor in the city of Detroit for someone that's not running again. The term ends on, well, does it end on December 31st or does it end on January 1st? Right. Because when it comes to the presidency, does it end on January 19th or does it end on January 20th at 12 noon? Or does it end on January 20th? You know, so it's you know, you follow the money, I guess. You know, in a nutshell, you follow the money, and they have to find a way to not make it where it can be looked upon as being a corrupt system, because you wait until after the petitions are turned in, then you want to play I Spy.
Yep. Queen Bee says that he is not deciding, the campaign is. The chief of staff is there for a reason. Okay, that's your opinion. And I get it. G Money Hollywood says politics practice name recognition, and the average voter doesn't follow the real issues, they follow the person. The D should elect a candidate whose values and agenda closely align with Mike D. Wow. So I don't know how I feel I don't know how I feel about that opinion, because I think that whoever becomes the next leader of the mayor, leader of the city of Detroit, I think they need to have their own identity, their own agenda, not that of Mike Duggins.
I agree with you on that. The only thing I hope for in one of the key qualities of a candidate is that they're a good manager of. It's a huge city to manage, and it's easy to let it eat you up and overwhelm you. And so, but yeah, I mean, people should have an agenda. I mean, you know, their own agenda, and hopefully, you know, we have somebody as good as Duggan or better, you know.
You know, Par Org makes a very good point. He says the $1 million question is whether or not Davis is restoring integrity to the elections.
It's politics.
Okay.
Right, that's not, I mean, yeah, it had nothing to do. I mean, the challenge in the ballot has nothing to do with integrity.
Well, I wonder. I mean, what's the motive really beyond? I mean, are you really like, oh my God, I'm gonna kick this person off the ballot because they didn't check that they're a citizen? I'm so perfect. I expect
that's
everything.
Not it.
Well,
he's trying to disrupt the process.
Yeah, right.
So you are sidetracked and you can't focus on what you're trying to accomplish. That's what he's doing, and it's working.
He's also is challenging those that are a threat to the status quo.
Oh, I don't see it that way. I think he's challenging whoever he can challenge. I would say that maybe you're correct, but it doesn't mean that that's what he's doing. Both things can be right. So if you're running,
both things can be right, but look at the history of his challenges. Those that are a threat to usurping the persons that they want in office, then that's part of the problem. Look at the challenges he made over the years. Hey, I think he even made challenges when he was still in jail.
Right. Somebody asked if he was ex.
We're not going to judge anybody by where they've been and where
somebody asked that there, but yeah.
I get it.
Well, go ahead, Jim.
No, that's what we knock somebody who, you know, and I don't know what his dad. I have no idea. I have no idea whether who's been in jail and who hasn't been in jail in this world. But we're not going to judge them by that. That's not.
I'm not judging him by that. I'm saying that if I'm not mistaken, he made challenges while he was still in jail. That's the only point I made.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about the general. You know, I was involved with some people, and they're like, "Well, he's this and he's that." That's beside the point, right? You screwed up, right? You ran an ad and you didn't put who it was paid for by, and he caught it. That was my experience with him, and he was right. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter if he came from, you know, Gratian Connor or he came from Van Horn and Allen. You know, if he was right, he was right.
I mean, look, it has come. I had a conversation with him once. I said to him, I said, "What? You know, he was convicted of embezzling $200,000 from." I said, "What were you thinking, taking from such a poor school district?" And he just kind of shook his head. He didn't really have an answer for it. I'm sure. Look,
answer for that?
Well, he just he felt bad. I think, you know, and look, he's done a lot of good, but you know, I don't know if you know, I know
telling people business on this show, but just listen.
Yeah.
Like everybody, most people, a lot of people do good and there's a lot of people do bad. Okay. But like I said, whatever his motivation is, and the motivation that I believe it is, because it costs money to do that. Again, if I'm going to challenge you, Jim, I'm going to say, yeah, Jim did not dot his I or cross his T, and he did not sign this date. He didn't check off township, and therefore his name should not go on the ballot. Listen, I know people who've made challenges, and they said, I made the challenge. I'm in the race. I'm picking this person off because I don't want them to be in a race. To have somebody who's not even running to do this, if you're running, you don't have time to go back and look at all of these people and say, hey, I'm going to challenge this person, that person, this person, that person. You just don't.
I think
my only point was,
didn't Shreve Vanadar knock Adam Holio? He challenged him on the ballot and stuff like that. I mean, it's not unusual for one candidate to go after another and try to get rid of them if they're competition, but you know,
Shreve challenged him after Allen. He challenged him after somebody gave him a heads up on it.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, that's what that was. In Park, Oregon, yeah, I thought so. He challenged someone going back to Robert Davis. He did challenge someone while he was still in jail, which is his right. He's a citizen, you know. But I'm just saying.
My only point was people make mistakes in this life. We can't hold them accountable for the rest of their life. We have had people on this show, other people that have made mistakes, and they're good people that made bad decisions. So that's that. You know,
is it a bad decision or is it a mistake?
Well, bad decisions over and over again in some cases.
Both. Yeah.
But I you know, if someone pays their debt to society, if they do their time or whoever it is, we can't hold it over their head forever. That's
and G Money verified what he was talking about. I forgot who asked about him, the comment he made previously, but he verified what he was talking about Duggan.
Okay.
He said somewhat of a replica, not a duplication. Okay. Okay. Well, McDonald says, I think he was set up and took the fall. I don't know who he's talking about.
I think they talking about Robert Davis. That would be a negative.
Yeah.
You talking about set up and taking the money at the Highland Park?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was one though. That is my man, K-Mac, by the way. He's a good guy.
Okay.
But
Yeah, you guys hear this noise. I'm so sorry. I started printing off some Discovery like hours ago, and it's just printing, and I got to let it go through. It's 80 pages, so please excuse me. This is
good.
I have to mute you.
Right. You can mute me.
All right. So, anyways, we got a couple more minutes. We want to anything we want to. I want to say something about, you know, I saw Robert Kennedy in Capitol Hill testifying, and he's talking about. They kept asking, "Well, are you recommending measles vaccinations?" And he goes, "Well, basically, no. He said, I'm not doing that because why? I don't know enough about it. There hasn't been enough testing. One of the senators who is a doctor corrected him and said there has been a lot of testing on a lot of these vaccines. Particularly the measles vaccine has been around forever. Most of us we probably all had it by now. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of dangerous. People are dying from the measles, and it happens anyways, but it seems to be more prevalent this year.
So can we all tell a little story at the end? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Story.
Yeah, whatever.
I was saving a story. I was gonna save it for Saturday, but I'm gonna bring it up tonight because today is May 14th, and tomorrow is National Police Officers Memorial Day in Washington D.C. There was a candlelight vigil last night. I want to tell you guys a quick little story. Some of my family's buried out at Michigan Memorial in Huron Township, and I was walking around the cemetery a couple days ago, and I noticed a stone. And the name on the stone was Paul Lee Mickle, 1950 to 1973, and there was a badge and a badge and a star, a deputy star. So I came home and I did a little research, and because it is Peace Officers Memorial Week, this young man, 23 years old, was sitting in. I never heard of this before. I was completely unaware. In Southgate, right up the road on 4th Street, at 2:30 in the morning in 1973, when a guy came in and started some trouble, and the owner of the restaurant asked him to get involved. He had been on the job 8 months, and the outcome was a guy pulled a gun, he wrestled the gun away, and a friend of his stole the deputy's gun and killed him. 8 months on the job, off duty, somebody asked him to get involved, and he lost his life in 1973, left a wife behind. And I just want to pay tribute to him during this week.
Yeah, that's very nice. 23 years old?
Yes.
Yeah, he was young. Damn.
He was a baby.
Yeah. Probably hadn't even been to the police academy in 1973. I'd be surprised if he had even been to the police academy.
What was the officer's name?
His name was Mickle. There's a police officer, retired police officer in Wyandotte that has the same last name. I expect he's somehow related, but
because there's a officer who was I don't know if to say who was shot near the zoo in 1973. It actually I ended up getting to know the inmate because he provided some information on a story that I did, but he shot the cop. He was on acid. It was 1973. Him and another guy, they were high. He was on parole, and his buddy was also high, and the officer pulled him over. So near the Detroit Zoo. They got out of the car, and his friend, the inmate-to-be friend, was wrestling with the cop on the ground, and this guy took out the cop's gun and shot the cop.
Very similar story. This is just tragic.
It's a dangerous job.
It is. It is a dangerous job, and most people who do that job, I believe, they really care about the people that they serve and protect. I mean, you have a few bad apples, but you have a few bad apples in every profession, as far as I'm concerned.
Of course.
But at 23 years old, that is, oh my gosh.
There's 24,412 names on the wall in Washington, D.C. as of this year. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of human beings.
Wow.
Well,
My story will be quick. Not sure if you all read it. MLive did an extensive story on it, but Michigan ranks 44th in the nation education post-pandemic, which means it's the 6th worst state in the country. And at the end of the day, we as a community, as a people, I mean everyone in Michigan, just too easily distracted, as well as lacking priorities, because it makes no sense that you have a couple of world-class colleges and universities in this state, and we rank 44th in the country when it comes to reading and math in this country. And that just, that's sad. actually.
Yeah. So is it this Saturday that we have Chief Craig coming on the show?
Yeah, he's coming on Saturday.
Okay. I won't be here Saturday. I'll be up for a college reunion. But
I won't. I'll be here Saturday, but I will be here remotely, so I won't be in the state.
That's
But
2 weeks
let the
away.
authorities
2 weeks in
know
a
up there,
row. I won't be here Saturday because I state regionals for track is Saturday, so I'll be in a track meet.
So it's just going to be Jim, Adolph, and myself, and I'll be here remotely. So,
And Teresa.
It's a Lady T. So that's.
Teresa, we got to get Teresa on one time.
Well, she said she does not want to come on the camera. But listen, I want to give
She's
a shout.
got something to say.
I want to give a shout out to Baby Maharaja. The new viewer says vote John James for governor, patriot, veteran, and handsome. Okay. Janet said she talked about the story that you gave, Jim. She says very sad. There are no words to express the sorrow of their loss. And Miss Sheila, shout out to Miss Sheila. She says salute Mr. Eric for your focus on the future. And Queen B says she loved you, Eric. She loved that Eric always gonna stand on education. So we're gonna say good night. It is now 9:31. We'll be back.
Can we talk about the Sean Puffy Combs trial?
Oh, we can talk about it on Friday. It's 9:31.
I'm just kidding. I wouldn't waste my he's
Listen, I have not I haven't watched it or anything. I heard a few comments.
You can't watch it. Yeah, you got to
I saw a few comments on social media, and it's shocking to me that people are already making a call and you haven't even heard all the evidence of seeing everything. And he's going to be found out guilty. I don't know how you can make that call. So at any rate,
thanks to our viewers tonight.
So, yeah, maybe we could talk about that on Friday night. You guys have Puff is a wild boy. He's a wild boy. No, he's a sick individual.
He's a sick boy.
He's a sick man. Okay.
I'm not sure he's going to get convicted though. But I could be wrong.
It's shocking to me that people are saying that already.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying from what I've watched so far on the nightly news. I mean, what the defense is trying to create is that he had relationships. His girlfriend was with him for a long time.
Let me tell you something. When we talk about those kind of cases, we always say it's consent. Trust me. That's our goal.
I agree, but I mean, there is a difference between what he's charged with trafficking and all that kind of stuff, or sexual assault or whatever. And maybe
all the witnesses, right?
Y'all don't think they got to that yet, Alan. As of right now, I agree with Alan. He convicting him right now, he would be found not guilty. But there are a lot of evidence that they have not gotten to yet. Because even say he's a sexual deviant, but they have not come to the level of trafficking and all that yet.
That's a nice word, and I agree with Vanessa that we can't make the call right now because we haven't heard all the evidence. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, we'll talk about on Friday. That'll be a good topic to talk about. I know Adolph is going to say, bump Puff Daddy. He's not going to say bump. He's going to use the F word. So, all right, ladies and gents, good night. See you Friday at 8.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.